Hi, my name is Blair Murphy and I'm the Curator of Exhibitions at Arlington Arts Center in Arlington, Virginia. Like so many places during the current crisis, AAC is currently closed to the public, but we're looking for ways to continue focusing on our mission of connecting the public to contemporary art and contemporary artists. We pursue that mission through our exhibitions program, our education programs, and our resident artist program. So we're developing online initiatives to connect audiences to all of these programs while we're closed to the public. Please check our website, arlingtonartscenter.org, to find out more. Our education team has already put together some great at-home art projects for kids, and we'll be launching new videos, projects, and additional programs soon. This video is the first in a new series that we're calling AAC Off the Wall. It will feature conversations with our resident artists using one specific piece they've made as a jumping off point to start a conversation about their artistic practice, their time at AAC, and really every other aspect of what they do as artists. We have 10 long-term and 2 short-term residents who are in studios on site at AAC. Our long-term residents have studios for up to 6 years, and during that time, they also present 2 solo exhibitions in our Wyatt Resident Artist Gallery. If you've been to AAC, hopefully you've had a chance to see some shows in the Wyatt Gallery. It's up on the 3rd floor, and we've always got really great stuff going on in that space. It's really nice for the residents to have a space where they can experiment, try something new, and just have a couple solo shows while they're residents at AAC. So I was really happy to launch this series by talking with AAC resident Negar Ahkami about After Winter Must Come Spring, which is an interactive dance platform piece, which was part of her first solo show at Arlington Arts Center, which opened in April of 2018. The work and the whole exhibition really was all about dance and music as strategies for surviving dark times. So it felt like a really relevant conversation to have right now. Negar has been a resident at AAC since 2016. She has a BA from Columbia University and an MFA from the School of Visual Arts in New York. Her work has been shown in museums and galleries all across the country and around the world, and is also in permanent collections of the New Britain Museum of American Art, the DePaul University Art Museum, the Farjam Collection in Dubai, and numerous other private collections. Negar was raised in the New York area, but was actually born in Baltimore. Her parents are originally from Iran. They married in Iran before moving to England, and then a few years later to the United States, where they first arrived to Baltimore. So Negar works primarily as a painter and has a long-running interest in Persian art history and also in the ways that contemporary Iran is depicted and imagined really by people in the United States. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you do too. The work we're going to be talking about today, which you can see on the screen, is called After Winter Must Come Spring, and it's a piece that was in Negar's solo show at AAC in the spring of 2018, so just about 2 years ago. And can you tell us a little bit about the piece, Negar, about what it was like and how people interact with it?
Yeah, well, After Winter Must Come Spring is an interactive dance platform, and it's structurally sound. It's the platform itself was built. The structure was built by a Baltimore artist named Brian Stansbury. Shout out to Brian for making this beautiful, elegant platform that was totally structurally sound, so people could dance on this. It's kind of a collage and drawing with spray paint and mixed materials, fringe, kind of literally done in my house 2 years ago around this time in March. And it's, meant to be a dance platform in the spirit of the sort of Saturday Night Fever light up dance floors, but also a nod to 1001 Nights magic flying carpet imagery. I like the idea of bringing those two things together, and also just Persian carpets in general. This nod to sly nod to this love of the dance floor that I know very well, associate with Iranians, both in the diaspora, but also in Iran. And, this little known aspect of Iranian culture that's such a salient part of the Iranian experience to me, and in my case, the Iranian American experience. But also just this universal thing that's, 1001 Nights has become such a universal sort of mythology, this mythology of this escapist world and this vehicle for escape and the flying carpet, and how that connects to the experience of being on a dance floor for anyone who likes to dance, this transporting, joyful experience. And so this desire to really just create a piece that brought joy was really what this really came down to.
Yeah. And the investigation of the magic carpet, or the sort of playing with that idea of the magic carpet, connects to some of your other work, in the sense that you've always been sort of interested in Orientalism, and sort of examining the ways that the West has kind of seen Persian culture, and the sort of art, the way that art history has sort of overlooked the influence from there, but then at the same time there's been this appropriation in popular culture.
Totally. Well said. I've been obsessed with all of these things. And I think Orientalism is just like, I think while some people think it's very kitsch and cartoonish and stereotypical, I see it as this amazing convergence of so many ideas. Like you said, just the appropriation, this desire to reclaim this territory that's been sort of taken by the West. And also just examining it, just the dynamics of the way in which the West has cartoonified and continues to cartoonify and simplify, oversimplify this exotic part of the world known as the Islamic world, which is kind of this overgeneralizing lump.
Yeah.
And even just reducing things to to religion is problematic as well. I mean, so yeah, my early 2000s, I was doing these harem paintings, kind of revisiting this 100-year-old tradition of Western artists painting these sort of exoticized Middle Eastern Muslim women, and just kind of how that relates to the contemporary fascination with the veil, which was just another kind of exoticizing image that really didn't relate to the humanity in many ways, related to a very small fraction of the sort of experience even in Iran today, I thought. And so this subversion, this engagement with the stereotypes, and this Orientalist, escapist imagery, but then also a subversion of it. Because if you really looked closely, these sort of harem women could have been women in New York. It could be satires of women anywhere in the world. I mean, just this longing for escape, being kind of cooped up in interiors. And then similarly, these exoticized failing views of this architectural sort of landscape from afar. This is a stand-in for the way we view Iran from afar, as this menace, this buffoon, this failure, this nuclear threat. I mean, the mosque architecture kind of morphs into power plant architecture.
Yeah.
And this was imagery I was doing for like 13 years after 9/11, kept repeatedly revisiting. And so within even this imagery, there's, yes, an engagement with the Orientalist stereotype, but also a subversion because of the glitziness, the textures, the patterns are so familiar to us because of the ways in which we have appropriated so much of these visual traditions in our everyday world, and so the ways in which we're linked, I think, is really a part of this. And then the really early work, like after 9/11, I was doing these intricate kind of landscapes with these on the right, like these small, tiny figures that are this big, that were stand-ins they're supposed to be like representative of the Iranian humanity or populace before the revolution. And I called them the pharaohs. And that's a detail from a piece called The Exile of the Pharaohs, a work on paper. And that was like a stand-in for really like the representation of women before the revolution in Iran. Just, my memory of Iranian women is, really just following the fashions, the Western fashions, this continuity of the American women that I saw here growing up, and then visiting Iran in the 70s, the same flip back hair, the same Farrah Fawcett obsession, and
and that's trends with the dance floor piece too. This kind of merging that the sort of disco Saturday Night Fever element isn't just sort of incorporating American pop culture; it's also sort of an homage to the popularity of disco at that point in Iran, which I thought was really interesting.
Exactly. And and it's not even at that point. I think it's really been ongoing. And just a tribute to that humanity, in spite of, regime repression and all that, it's still very much there.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about the dance floor piece is that you've been thinking about it for a long time. So it does obviously like fit in with a lot of the work you've been making over a pretty long span. But it is a piece that you sort of thought of, and then it took some time to actually execute it. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah, so back in 2005, I was in graduate school at School of Visual Arts in New York. Shout out to my New York friends and family. I was very sick actually and had to miss a lot of school. I had this lung infection, and at home, I came up with this drawing on the right, and it was this little homage to this Persian king from the early 1800s, this ridiculous looking character that was also somehow a subversion of like Osama bin Laden imagery at the time, like an alternative to that sort of, violent sort of image. Was this kind of a absurd kind of character, and putting him on this Saturday Night Fever dance floor with a Persian twist. Again, this nod to this Iranian love of the dance floor, this maximalist, in addition to this satire of this Persian king. And then this is a small piece from the same time called Tehran, circa 1979, this sort of death of disco, with the advent of the revolution. And at that time, I actually made a little maquette for like a dance platform that sort of had this kind of grid-like formulation with pattern, but it was also sort of a Persian carpet too. But I was too chicken to pull that off at the time. And I also had so many ideas for symbols. Harem paintings just started emerging at the same time.
Yeah, because you were primarily working in 2 dimensions, right? So in painting, drawing, and
absolutely. And so I didn't know how to go about making this platform. And so I just was like, no, never mind, maybe someday, but not now. So even like years later in 2010, I did this kind of Salome painting, which is another Orientalist theme, but it was a nod to sort of the resistance against repression that was going on in Iran in 2009. And there's this like dance party in the background. This is like the thumbnail size background. So again, like I'm drawing on this dance party as a way to subvert stereotypes, but also a subversion against the repression as well. This real aspect of Iranian humanity is, years later. So this was 2010, right? This was 2005. It's like in 5-year intervals, I keep returning to dancers. Years in 2015, I moved down here and I got a short-term studio residency at AAC, which was amazing. I was really having a hard time, like with the move and from New York and not knowing if I was still an artist, if I still had it in me. I kept making these little dancer paintings that kind of showed that I still had a pulse. But they were very much in response to being depressed by the hourly news reports about, these warmongering threads that any Iranian American kind of feels and understands in this coded language on NPR, that like these nuclear reports about the nuclear capability of Iran, and just always this seems like a pretext to war. So that, again, there's this desire to sort of uplift and pay tribute to the Iranian humanity. But then to all of humanity, I mean, there was a lot of nostalgia for the New York dance floors that I grew up, spending a lot of time on. I would go dancing when I was very underage, 13, 14 in New York, kind of a club kid. Commuting from New Jersey, much like the, John Travolta character, crossing bridges to get to the city for dancing. Just the depression about the news extended to, just the brutality against African-American men and mass shootings. And so it just was really hard.
2015, 2016. So when that was in the news a lot, and like you mentioned, sort of thinking about it as the dance floor is sort of an escape that you're familiar with, sort of in Iranian culture, but also that's so transcendent in terms of a lot of people's experience that the dance floor and music becomes this like
the way we're all so connected on that, and just the way in which, on a dance floor might be a place where you present yourself, and dress up and present your humanity and your difference and who you are, and just let it all fly. But then it's also a place to kind of disappear and become at one with everybody. And it's I kind of equate it with like Persian Sufi poetry, and just this like the disappearance of the ego, and how that the weird shift between presenting yourself but then also disappearing into becoming at one with everybody. And so that made me really feel like, okay, I really do need to make a dance floor. In 2015, I was still like, oh, but how would I go about doing it? And at AAC, right when I had this residency, the artist from Baltimore, Scott Pennington, had this amazing installation downstairs. And I met him and I introduced myself to him, and I said, I love your work, and I've been wanting to make this dance platform, and I just, I don't know, I secretly wanted him to build the platform for me because I knew it would be perfect, but he was busy, and he was so nice, and he led me, he basically pointed me to this place where I could get the plexiglass, and he encouraged me to apply for Light City Baltimore, and I just did not have my head around like a big public art project when all I wanted to do, what I needed to do was just make a small platform to initiate the process, but I did it. I whipped out this application that of course failed, but I called it a magic carpet for Baltimore. It was this desire to give a gift of a light up dance floor, and for the people of Baltimore who welcomed my parents, as their first port of entry in the United States, but also given, just feeling like Baltimore needed like joy and, a hug. Well, they don't need joy. They have their own thing going on. They're amazing in Baltimore, but just a desire to give something joyful to the amazing people of Baltimore. And so that did not happen. It was a failed, look at this. This was my proposal. It was like popsicle sticks. So, but it got me thinking about the materials that I would use. And it wasn't for another 2 years practically that I put together this little platform. My daughter, who's 10, and my husband built this structurally sound platform that had these like steel bars inside, so you could totally stand on it. But yeah, it was more just like do I want to go forward with this? Just playing with the materials. It wasn't really a finished piece.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to see the thing to know if it's gonna.
Exactly. Just like know what materials. Yeah. Exactly. So this was because I got a studio at AAC, and it was big enough for me to make it. I moved into Pam's older studio on 2017, and that's when I did that. So it was because of the studio that I was able to do that. And then that brings us into the show in 2018.
Yeah, and then it was in the exhibition 2 years ago. This is the final piece. And it was shown with a few of the dancer paintings that you showed earlier, along with some other work.
And the music, like in terms of like how people got on the floor, was I had this like Aladdin type lamp that was kind of an hybrid sort of, looks like an ancient Iranian wine vessel, and I called it like the genie named Alexa, and I spelled Alexa in this kind of like Orientalist way, this Arabesque way, and so viewers could.
Alexa, play Can You Feel It by Mr. Fingers. Can you feel it by Mr. Fingers?
So that's what activated the dance. That's what, people would ask for their favorite song, and they would, or song that they wanted to dance to, and they would get on the dance floor, and the whole floor changes colors with the LED light changes. And this is how it looked in the space with the paintings, as you said. This was very much a tribute to the sort of Iranian dance floors of my youth growing up, and sort of a tribute to everyone, all in the same space. And yeah, just the best part of it was just seeing the viewers interact with it. So should we watch?
Yeah. I remember having conversations about sort of feasibility and how to manage having people on the dance floor. I'm so happy we were able to. So yeah, I think these are both, if maybe on the left, I guess Juan at the opening, probably. If anyone comes to AAC for our openings, you may have met Juan. He bartends at the openings and helps us around the gallery. Really great to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see Juan. It's just so awesome. And really, it's just a pedestal. The work of art is the people on the dance floor. It's a humble pedestal. This is the art, is the way it transforms the space into a dance party. And just the beauty that's created on the floor. Like Juan is the work of art.
Yeah.
I could just keep watching that over and over again.
Yeah, and then the other video is your neighbor, I think.
This is my neighbor, Hollywood. She's amazing. And her grandson, Corey Bravo, who's an artist who is off camera dancing with her. Yeah, just, they literally came the last like 20 minutes of the show, right before it was going to close, the whole exhibition. And it was just the perfect bookend between Juan and Hollywood. This realization of an idea that I wouldn't have been able to it wouldn't have happened without Arlington Arts Center's coolness of letting people interact on it in this day and age of like liability concerns and all that. It was awesome of it to see.
We were happy we were able to. It was totally safe. Totally
and then, sorry. Okay.
There we go.
And then we'll just end with Eloisa, right?
Yeah, I remember, I think this was at the very end of the opening, the kind of maybe opening after party.
Yes, we dimmed the lights. Can you say Eloisa's full name? So we
yes, Eloisa Escudero.
Yes,
she's an artist in Arlington and also works with AAC pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see it with the lights down and really appreciate the lighting of the floor.
Yeah, but really all of this was just, all of this is to say is that this couldn't have happened without this perfect blend of the community and, space to work and interaction with other artists, and also just the opportunity for a show and a deadline, right? Artists, we all need deadlines to finally commit to these ideas that we've had for a long time. So thank you, AAC.
Yeah, thank you.
Blair.
I'm so glad we were able to. It was really fantastic. This was some of my first, pretty early on in my time at AAC, and it was really great to get to work with you on it.
It was great.
Yeah.
Great memory. Thank you, Blair.
Yeah, thank you, Negar. Thanks for talking with us, and thanks
Take
everybody
care.
for watching. And keep an eye out for more online content, and we hope everyone is staying safe and healthy, and look forward to welcoming everybody back when we are able to open. Right. Bye, Negar.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.